Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Asatara Satashri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai. Mathura Dhama Ki Jai. Navadvip Bhaipur Dhama Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai. Gangamaya Jamuna Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya. Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve. Gauravani Pacharane. Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatyade Satarane. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shcha. Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Sam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Panchakalpachupaschak, Upasnavya Bhatapatitanam Pavanavya, Vaishnavavya Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's April 3rd, 2023 in Hillsborough, North Carolina. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 24, Text 12. Kim na pasyata ramasya mukam atam ralochanam mushtikam prati sammarsham hasasam ramba shobitam. Please chant. Kim na pasyata ramasya mukamatam ralochanam mushtikam prati sammarsham asya samramba shobitam. Kim na pasyata ramasya mukamatam ralochanam mushtikam prati sammarsham asa samramba shobitam. Kim na pashyata ramasya mukamatam ralochanam mushtikam prati sammarsham asya samramba shobitam. Kim na pasyata ramasya mukamatam ralochanam mushtikam prati sammarsham asa samrama shobitam. Kim, why? Na pashyata, do you not see? Ramasya, of Lord Balarama. Mukham, the face. Atamra, like copper. Lochanam, with eyes. Mushtikam, mushtika. Prati, toward. Sa amarsham, with anger. Hasa, by his laughter. Samramba, and his absorption. Shobitam, beautified. This is the onlookers at the wrestling arena, particularly the ladies. Speaking, translation. Don't you see the face of Lord Balarama? With its eyes copper red from his anger towards Mushtika, and its beauty enhanced by his laughter and his absorption in the fight. I also want to read Prabhupada's translation from Krishna book. Prabhupada writes, another lady said, don't you see how the face of Lord Balaram has turned especially beautiful? There is a reddish hue on his white face because he is engaged in a strenuous wrestling match with Mushtika. So Prabhupada's putting the redness on the face instead of... We're going to read Sanatana Goswami's commentary. Though Balaram also has a tender body, seeing the fatigue of Krishna, he has become intensely angry. Look at that. Who does not see that? He laughs out of disrespect for the wicked wrestler. His face is beautiful with his absorption in continuous laughter, or he is beautiful with anger, which gives rise to his laughter. Kimna Pashyataramasya Mukam Atam Ralochanam Mushtikam Pratisamarsham Hasyasam Ramba Shobitam. Don't you see the face of Lord Balaram with its eyes copper red from his anger towards Mushtika, and its beauty enhanced by his laughter and his absorption in it? The ladies are asking us, don't you see? So we're going to try today to see. We're going to uh, try today to meditate on the Lord in this mood and the Lord laughing. We're not supposed to just read the Bhagavatam officially. Now, I've been to Bhagavatam class. I've read my verse today. Not like that. But this is actually supposed to be a means for our entering into the Bhagavatam. We're supposed to be meditating on this. And the purpose of meditation, so Chaitanya Prabhu was talking about Yoga Maya, and he was talking about how yoga is you're supposed to link with the reality. Yes, that's the idea of yoga. You link with the reality. You go beyond illusion. So this is the idea of yoga, the idea of meditation. So we're going to look at what's involved in meditation. And then we're going to look at Balaram's amarsha, which is translated in this verse as anger. And then we're going to look at the Lord's laughter. So we're going to look at what is meditation, and then we're going to meditate on amarsha, and then especially we're going to meditate on the Lord's laughter. So what is meditation? And I just recently finished reading Gopal Hari's book called Maya in the Bhagavat. His academic, it was the book form of his PhD dissertation. And he has a section in there on the Sankhya of the Bhagavatam and atheistic Sankhya and the difference between them. And he brought out a really important point that I had never thought about before. So let's look at the stages of meditation, and then let's look at about how meditation is a little different in the Bhagavatam. So what's the first stage of meditation? We're going to look at we're not talking about the stages in NOI 8, but if we're going to have the 8 parts of meditation, what do you have to do first? Yam Niyam, right? You've got not Yam and Niyam. What to do, what not to do. You have to be a moral person, right? So what did Prabhupada do for his worldwide society? 4 regulative principles. It was very interesting in our Shastric Advisory Council research on the Brahma Gayatri and on Diksha in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. We found that it was only Srila Prabhupada who had people take vows of following these 4 regulative principles at Diksha. In other parts of the Sampradaya, the guru might discuss this or give an instruction, but Prabhupada had this as a vow. And my own personal conclusion on this is that Srila Prabhupada, in starting a worldwide society where he's making devotees in all the different cultures of the world, wanted to establish this as a firm thing. A devotee just asked me the other day that in the Bhagavatam, we find great devotees who are doing things like eating meat from animals they've hunted, or gambling, right? Or having what we would consider to be illicit sex, the kshatriyas who have to accept any woman who comes to them and says, I want to have a child with you, I want you to protect me, right? Taking intoxication, the yadus, drinking, and we're reading this about these great devotees, and he's saying, how is it that this is in the Bhagavatam and we have these 4 regulative principles? And I was thinking in former ages, Dharma was defined differently according to a particular varna. The Dharma for the Shudras was different from the Dharma for the Kshatriyas and so forth. But Prabhupada wanted to make sure that nobody was going to fall into the grip of Kali, because these are the 4 places that Maharaj Pariksit said Kali could live, where there was intoxication, where there was gambling, where there was illicit sex, and where there's meat eating. And one could make the argument that Sarva Kalamidam Brahma, everything is Brahman, everything is spirit, why shouldn't you be able to be Krishna conscious while you're smoking marijuana? Why shouldn't you be able to be Krishna conscious while you're having illicit sex? I mean, technically, there were pure devotee prostitutes in Dwarka. Yes? Technically speaking, Garuda's a meat eater. He eats snakes. So technically speaking, it's possible to be a pure devotee in any situation. But generally, for the vast majority of us, if we engage in these activities, we will forget Krishna, right? Our ability to remember Krishna, our ability to be Krishna conscious, if we're eating meat, taking intoxication, having illicit sex, or gambling, it's just not going to happen. So the ability to meditate is not going to be there. If somebody's intoxicated, how are they going to meditate? You follow? Intoxicated, they don't even know if they're dressed or not. They don't know if they're walking a straight line. They don't know if they're singing at the top of their lungs at 2 a.m. How are they going to meditate? If someone's eating meat, then that means their whole life is based on envy. Their whole life is based on violence. Their whole body is full of tamagun. How are they going to meditate? If someone's having illicit sex, that means they're in an exploitive relationship. How are they going to meditate? If someone's gambling, that means they're trying to make money by cheating. How are they going to meditate? And then, of course, we have our positive things. Rise early, take a bath, put on clean clothes. We might think everybody does this, but not everybody does this. There are a lot of people who wake up at, 1 p.m. and bathe 2 or 3 times a week, maybe. Put the same clothes on every day, right? Attending the Mangal Arti. I mean, these are things, the positive sort of things. Only eat Krishna Prasad. So these give us a foundation for meditation. If we're having difficulty meditating on Krishna, the first thing we want to look at is my yama niyam. Am I not doing basic moral things that I should be doing, or am I doing immoral things that I shouldn't be? That's the first step, because if one doesn't have this basic stuff right, meditation is very difficult. Of course, having said that, we take the holy name out to the public. Yes? We take the holy name out to the public, and definitely members of the public are not all following these 4 principles. They're definitely not all waking up before sunrise and taking a bath. And yet, Rupa Goswami says that even ordinary persons at festivals or at holy places or with devotees may experience some shadow or reflection of ecstasy and meditation. So that is possible by the mercy of the devotees. But we shouldn't think that just because that's possible by the mercy of the devotees, that therefore we don't need to live a pious life. And in fact, that this concept is kind of the essence of Sahajaism. We sometimes we're so afraid of Sahajaism that we don't want to meditate on Krishna at all. We're like, oh, I don't want to meditate on Krishna. Then I'll be a Sahaja. But Sahajaism is you don't have the yam niyam and you're pretending that you're meditating. You follow? You're having some illicit affairs, you're taking intoxication, and you're thinking also you can meditate. Okay, what's the next thing? After you have your morality right, after you've gotten yourself out of tamagun, what's the next thing that you can do? Breathing and posture. Right? Pranayam and asana. Now, what does pranayam and asana do? Pranayam and asana changes, it's very much like yam niyam. It's creating a foundation. Pranayam and asana are changing the brain wiring, if we're going to put it in medical terms, to make sure that the sympathetic nervous system is quiet and the parasympathetic nervous system is activated. The sympathetic nervous system is the flight or fight mechanism. How are you going to meditate if you're running away from a tiger? Pretty hard, right? I mean, again, it's possible. Arjuna was told to meditate while he was fighting. But generally, in order to meditate, you have to be in a calm situation. Now, when you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, in general, your health improves. When we're in a stress response, our digestion stops or slows, our immune system stops or slows, our higher order thinking skills stop. It's only when we're in a relaxed state that we digest properly, we have a proper immune system, we can think clearly. And so there's a lot of people at the modern age who take up the pranayama and the asanas to become healthy. It's a big business, right? Big yoga studios. They do the pranayama and the asana, and they do become healthy. But that's the idea. That creates the groundwork. Now, none of that so far that we've done is spiritual. The Yam Niyam is not spiritual. And having, just like we have Prabhupada's japa tape going in the greenhouse, and I spend so much time in there, I know exactly when Prabhupada's going to say in the middle of japa, sit properly. I know exactly when it's coming. You know, it's just like Prabhupada's going to say, sit properly, and Prabhupada says, sit properly. So, of course, there's no hard and fast rules for japa. You know, if you're sick with the fever, you can be lying down in your bed chanting the holy name. But it is a fact that putting ourselves in a state where we're calm, because what's the next step now? And I just heard one of my godbrothers giving a whole class on this, was fascinating. What's the next step? So you're a moral person. You're not under a stress response. What's the next? Before. There's two before. Pratyadhara. Pratyadhara is withdrawing the senses from their sense objects. Withdrawing the senses from their sense. This is why, my dear friends, we have a sadhana time. We are supposed to have some time during the day when we're not doing other things. Now, we're supposed to meditate on Krishna all the time. And Krishna willing, we're about to publish a book about how to meditate on Krishna by seeing the trees and the clouds and the birds and the sounds of the highway. And we're supposed to meditate on Krishna all the time. We are supposed to be able to meditate on Krishna even while we're fighting a battle with a stress response. But in order to meditate on Krishna all the time, we also want to have distinct meditation times. Does this make sense to everybody? Let's think of a material analogy. A person at work often has a photograph of their family. So they're thinking of their family while they're working. I'm working for my family. In order to do that, do they also have to have some time when they're just with their family? Suppose you're never just with your family and you're trying to meditate on your family while you're working. Will that work? It won't be very effective. You have to actually have some time just being with the person. I often give the example how my father spent 2 hours with me every morning just being with me. We weren't trying to accomplish something. I mean, he would tell me stories, he'd read me books, he'd make my breakfast, but we were just hanging out. What do we call that? Quality time. Right? In a marriage, if the husband and wife never spend any time together, just being together, eventually their relationship is going to degrade. So this pratyadhara, you're not doing anything else. You're just being with Krishna. You forget about everything. Forget about the bills you have to pay. Forget about your health worries. Forget about your worries about your family members, what you have to do in an hour. And this is pratyadhara. And if you don't do this, then you're all over the place. And meditation will be very difficult. These are all, we're still on foundations. Everybody with me? Be a moral person. Be in a state of calm. And let go of all the other concerns. Let them be. You tell the mind, we'll do this later. We can worry about this later. Not now. And Prabhupada talked about this in general in our service, that whatever service we're doing, we give it our full absorption without any other consideration. This is really what we should be doing always. If I'm dressing the deity, I'm totally focused on the deity. If I'm cooking, I'm totally focused on cooking. Now, the next thing is called dharana. Anybody know what the Sanskrit word dharana means? Who's Dara? It's a person. Who's the person? The earth. What do we call Krishna when he lifts up Govardhan? Govardhan Dari means to hold. Dharana means to hold. So we're going to hold what we're going to meditate on, which in this case is, what are we meditating on today? Balaram, who's in Amarsha and laughing while he's fighting with Mushtika. So we're going to hold that. Like Prabhupada said, George Harrison, if he wants to meditate, you tell him to look at a picture of Krishna while he's chanting. Like we look at the deities while we're chanting. Prabhupada would say, can't you remember the deities when you're chanting Hare Krishna? He said, you're seeing the deities, then later when you're chanting in another place, you remember the deities. You hold. Now, in impersonal meditation, they're simply trying to hold the mind still. They've let go of the external things and they're holding the mind still. For the meditation that's described in the Bhagavatam, what we're holding is Krishna. Now, we don't have to be holding a still picture. We can be holding a moving scene. Like Prabhupada talked about, when you chant japa, you can remember Krishna killing the demons and the cowherd boys are encouraging him with claps. So this scene it's a moving scene. Balaram fighting with Mushtika and his eyes turning red or his face turning red and he's laughing. But one holds it. And then the next step after dharana is dhyan. Dhyan is meditation. Then you meditate on what you're holding. Is everybody following this? Now, we all know how to do this in our life. We all know how to do this. I put other things aside, I hold something, and I meditate on what I'm holding. Everybody knows how to do this? Yes? I can do this with an object. Like I could take this purse, and I could hold it, and I could meditate on it. Yeah? We do this with ideas. We forget about everything else. We have an idea in our mind. We hold it, and we think about it. And then the last step is samadhi. Samadhi is where there's no more effort involved in the meditation. The meditation is flowing seamlessly. Dharana, there's some effort. Dhyana, there's some effort. Samadhi, there's no more effort. And again, we all experience this materially. Yes, something I care about, something I'm worried about, something I'm looking forward to. I forget about everything else. I hold it, I meditate on it, and often I can't stop my mind from doing that, yes? Ever happened to you with a song? You can't stop your mind from thinking about a song? Has that ever happened? Some songs going through your head? Or some worry, you're replaying something that happened and it's just going and you're saying, shut up, mind, and the mind won't shut up. So that is what we should be doing with Krishna. So that is the process of meditation, and particularly our sadhana time, especially our 16 rounds, our kirtan, our gayatri is supposed to be like that. Now, if our sadhana is like that, then there's a stage of meditation where that then sort of overflows into our day. So if I'm meditating like that during the kirtan, then when I'm driving, when I'm walking down the road, when I'm cooking, that kirtan and that meditation will naturally come to my mind. Yes? Again, have we all experienced that? Prabhupada, the adverb he used most often for chanting Hare Krishna was some synonym of, what was the adverb Srila Prabhupada used most when talking about chanting Hare Krishna? We should chant Hare Krishna, how, when, where? Constantly. Now, that doesn't mean constantly on beads, obviously. But if we have this focus during our japa time, during kirtan, then naturally the mantra will go in our mind at other times. Yes? Everyone has experiences? If I'm meditating on Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's form, then naturally I'll be able to meditate on Krishna in nature. I'll naturally be able to meditate on Krishna in the course of a discussion about anything or doing anything. My whole life will become a meditation that's no longer dependent on whether or not I'm in a stress response or a calm response or how I'm sitting or how I'm breathing. Okay, everybody with me? All right, so now that we've established that, now what are we going to meditate on here? So today's meditation is Balaram has this amarsha, which in the BBT translation is anger. And I was thinking about, I'm pretty sure for the 10th canto, the translators were Hridai Nandamarsh, Gopi Pranadana, and probably Prajumna was also involved with the 10th canto translations. Amarsha is one of the Vyavichari bhavs. It's one of the transitory emotions in rasa. So in any relationship, like there's a basic emotion. I have a basic emotion, let's say, with someone as my friend. But sometimes with my friend, I'm with my friend doing things with my friend. There's going to be other emotions that mix with that friendship. And one of those is amarsha. So amarsha is generally translated not as anger, but as haughtiness or indignation, which one could say is kind of a milder form of anger. And Rupa Goswami gives the symptoms and the causes of amarsha. So let's meditate now on Balaram. He's fighting with Mushtikas in this battle with Mushtika. And what is he seeing from yesterday's verse that Sanatana Goswami referenced in his commentary? He's seeing that Krishna is exhibiting signs of fatigue, which is interesting when we're talking about God. But we're not going there today. So Balaram sees that Krishna has signs of fatigue. In other words, he's seeing that it looks like Chandra is winning. So he feels indignation. He feels amarsha. The Lord has all the varieties of emotions that are possible to experience. I really like how Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was saying how in impersonalism, they're not saying that the jiva becomes Ishwar. They're saying there's no jiva, there's no Ishwar. There's just Brahman without qualities, without emotions, without potency. But the Lord has all these emotions, and Balaram has this emotion of amarsha, indignation. How can Krishna be fatigued? So what are the causes? The causes are contempt or insult. So here Balaram's feeling that Chanura is insulting Krishna. Krishna's been insulted. Just like when we hear these impersonalist philosophies, God has no potency, God has no qualities, don't we feel some indignation? That's not right. That shouldn't happen. No one should say that about Krishna. No one should do that to Krishna. So that's how Balaram's feeling. And what are the symptoms? Intolerance, perspiration. Do we read how Krishna was also perspiring in his fatigue? Now, the perspiration always amuses me because, the demigods don't sweat. I don't know about all of you, but I find perspiration to be annoying. I don't like the fact that my body perspires. And if I'm perspiring heavily, I can't wait to get in a shower and wash the perspiration off. I find it unpleasant. And the demigods don't perspire. They have some body that doesn't need to perspire. Their clothes don't get dirty either. They don't need washing machines. Interesting, huh? The story of of Damayanti and Nala. She wanted to marry Nala, and she was so qualified that some of the demigods wanted to marry her. So they assumed the form of Nala, and there were four Nalas at her Swayamvar, and she was trying to figure out which one was the human, and she could tell because he was sweating. And the demigods don't sweat. So if the demigods don't sweat, why would spiritual bodies sweat? They're higher than the demigods. We read how Mother Yasoda, she's churning butter and she's perspiring. So these are Krishna's Nada Lila. It is fascinating to me, absolutely fascinating, that at the highest realm of Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world, the Lord himself and his associates sweat. And they sweat because of emotion. Do we sweat because of emotion? Of course we do. Yeah, sure. We sweat when it's hot, physically hot, but we also sweat because of emotion. If we're upset, if we have indignation, we might start to perspire. I had a very, very good devotee friend. She's since left her body. And she told me about how that one time she was meditating during her japa. Her name was Radhakund Devi Dasi, disciple of Shiva Ramaraj in Hungary. One of these very, very advanced souls. And she told me that one time during her japa, she was meditating on Krishna having perspiration. And she was just meditating. How can Krishna perspire? And then there was Krishna in front of her with drops of perspiration all over him. She said it just looked like ornaments, as if Krishna was wearing pearl ornaments. So the Lord is beautified by these drops of perspiration. We have so many accounts. Krishna returns from the forest with the cows, and he's covered with perspiration and dust even. Another one, shaking the head, change of color. So that's what we're reading about today. Balaram changed color. So in the BBT translation, it says what changed color were his eyes. In Prabhupada's translation in Krishna book, he said what changed color was his face. So there was some change of color. Do we change color because of emotion? Do we turn reddish or pale from different emotions? When I had 2 years of training as a counselor, as a therapist, it was one of the things we were trained in, was to notice people's subtle color changes due to their emotion. Pondering, looking for methods. Do you think Balaram was looking for methods to defeat Mustika? Shouting, turning away, and beating. So Balaram was certainly beating Mushti. So this is his amarsha. Now we're going to look at the laughter, hasa. So hasa is not a vyavichari bhav. It's one of the secondary sthai bhavs, laughter or comedy. And in this regard, we have a particular instruction from Lord Kapila Dev in the whole section of the Bhagavatam about Vaishnava meditation. And this verse, which is 328:33, starts with the word dhyana, or meditate. So Prabhupada's translation, with devotion seeped in love and affection. So a bhakti yoga is not just mechanical. We're not just moral people who get in a calm state to do a mechanical yoga of just holding the mind still. But our meditation is love. And meditation in love is so much easier, isn't it? Can't you naturally meditate on whoever or whatever you love? Yes? With devotion seeped in love and affection, the yogi should meditate within the core of his heart upon the laughter of Lord Vishnu. The laughter of Vishnu is so captivating that it can be easily meditated upon. When the Supreme Lord is laughing, one can see his small teeth, which resemble jasmine buds rendered rosy by the splendor of his lips. Once devoting his mind to this, the yogi should no longer desire to see anything else. So here Balaram is feeling indignation and he's. So one of my other favorite verses about the Lord's laughter when fighting with a demon and killing a demon is 7:8:28. Making a loud, shrill sound of laughter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is extremely strong and powerful, captured Hiranyakashipu, who was protecting himself with his sword and shield, leaving no gaps open. With the speed of a hawk, Hiranyakashipu moves sometimes in the sky and sometimes on the earth. His eyes closed because of fear of Nrsingadev's laughter. Laughter. So Hiranyakashipu was terrified of Nrsingadev's laughter. So we can meditate on Balaram laughing while he's fighting with Mustika, feeling indignation. Nrsingadev laughing while he's fighting with Hiranyakashipu. Whenever we sing the Nrsinga prayers in the morning, I always like to meditate on how the Lord is laughing. Of course, there's also laughing pastimes that are not with killing demons. Can someone else think of some time the Lord is laughing that's not involved with fighting with demons and killing demons? Huh? At Pondraka, yes. When the messenger came and said, Pondraka, he wants your name and your weapons, everyone in the assembly, along with Krishna, was just laughing and laughing. And when Krishna actually saw Pondraka with his two fake arms, like some low-grade Indian movie, you've seen those, the kids used to call them special defects. So when the Lord saw Pondraka with his low-budget Indian costume set of his two arms, he was cracking up. That's some other examples of the Lord's laughing that we can meditate on. Laughs with the cowherd boys. What's something funny the cowherd boys do with Krishna that everybody was laughing? They put flowers in his mouth. They say, Krishna, close your eyes, open your mouth. We're going to give you something fun. And they stick a flower in his mouth. They're all laughing. Also, I think it's in Ananda Vrindavan Champu or Gopal Champu where the cowherd boys, they distract Krishna. They tell him there's a monkey over there. And then they take his samosas, they take out the vegetables and they put in jasmine flowers. Right? So he's eating the flowers. There's something interesting in Mahaprabhu's Leela when Jagadananda brings back pilu fruit from Vrindavan, and the devotees who aren't familiar try to chew the seeds and instead of spitting them out, and the seeds are spicy. And Lord Chaitanya's laugh. Right? So there's so many examples. Of course, then there's all the joking with the gopis. Krishna joking with the gopis, all of their hasya parihasya sambhasana. We have the nice song about Vrindavan where the meditation is on how there's all these joking words going on. So this laughter, of course, which is very much part of Krishna's Dhira Lalita, where they're always laughing and joking with the gopis. There's also a time, of course, when Mother Yasoda starts to laugh when she's trying to tie up Krishna. First, she's angry. First, she also has some indignation. She's angry, and then finally, when she can't tie him up, she starts laughing. The mothers, fathers, the older cowherd men and women, they also laugh to see Krishna and Balaram grab onto the tail of a calf, right, and be dragged through the mud. So we should be having this time to be meditating on Krishna, not just to be busy running around getting things done. That's not. And our purpose is not to just be moral people. We're wanting to be moral people for a purpose. Our purpose is not just ordinary morality. And our purpose is not just mental calm. Our purpose for ordinary morality, our purpose for mental calm is so we can meditate on these wonderful pastimes of Balaram in his indignation and laughter. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Enam Kanvanda Maravindanalaya Tatam Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddhasundaram Kandar Bhakto Vidamaniya Kishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Andaniya Sakale Priya Pritimanti Vasyanti Vikayanti Giram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigasya Govindam Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Aham Bhajami Govindam
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Devasesha Sanyavadi Ashta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivaswati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivaswami, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivaswami, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivaswami, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivaswami, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivaswami, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Nittagor Haribo, 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 Nittagor Haribo, 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 Nittagor. Nittagor Haribo, 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 Nittagor Haribo, Haribo, Jaya Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Radhe Golokananda Radha Golokananda Radhe Jaya Radha Golokananda Radha Golokananda Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo Jaya All glory to the God.
Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Prapidanam Rita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Retadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoita Ki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavan Buddha Kripayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galarudharaya Varanam Gadgadardaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahaneva Vishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlisha Vapadam Ratam Banastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yata Tata Vavinito Lampato Mat Prananatastu Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy names alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these names you've invested your transcendental energies. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. My Lord, you approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of your atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shastika Ki Jai.